When the old Bible slipped from my hands and hit the floor with a heavy thud, a small folded note fell out and landed at my feet. I froze, staring at the chilling words scrawled across the fragile paper. If she ever finds out the truth, she must be silenced. Those 7 words, so simple yet so terrifying, ripped through everything I believed to be true. My name is Eleanor, and what I'm about to tell you is a story I tucked away for decades, one that transformed me from a quiet, trusting wife into a woman who had to fight for the truth, for my children, for my life. Before I share it, please hit like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from, because stories like these connect us all. It was a slow, ordinary afternoon when the pain in my head became unbearable. I was alone in the house, searching for some relief, when that Bible, always locked away, untouched, came crashing down. The note felt like a sharp knife stabbing into the calm I had clung to. Who had written it? What truth was buried in those pages? The world around me seemed to stop, yet my heart raced faster than ever. I knew that whoever she was, and whatever she was meant to be kept quiet about, it wasn't just a family secret. It was a threat. For the first time, fear crept into the quiet corners of my life. I could feel the weight of a hidden betrayal settling on my shoulders, the kind so heavy it could break a person. But I wouldn't crumble. I had to be stronger than the shadows creeping over my home. And so, with trembling hands but a firm resolve, I made a silent promise to uncover the truth no matter the cost. This was the beginning of the hardest chapter of my life. I had no idea then how deep the darkness ran, or how brightly the light I would find at the end would shine. The rustle of that fragile note in my trembling hands echoed louder than any sound I'd ever heard. That simple warning kept swirling in my mind, a shadow that refused to fade. Who could be so desperate to bury the truth that they'd threaten silence? My hands shook as I unfolded the worn pages of a dusty old journal I hadn't dared to open before. The words inside seemed to pulse with a hidden life, whispers of betrayal, loneliness, and something far deeper. I traced the faded ink, feeling like I was holding a ticking bomb. Questions burned inside me. Who was she? What was the truth they feared so much? And more terrifying, what would happen if I dug too deep? My heart hit a constant rhythm of fear and resolve. I remember the cold night air pressing against the windows as I sat alone, haunted by shadows that weren't there. The house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage trapping secrets that clawed at the walls. I didn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the floorboards held a story. Every whisper of the wind seemed to carry a warning. And yet, beneath the pain and fear, a stubborn flame of courage flickered, telling me to keep searching, to keep fighting for what I deserved. The truth. I knew that journey wouldn't be easy. There would be moments of despair, times when I would want to turn away from the darkness. But the truth, I realized, was the only light capable of setting me free. What lay hidden in those pages was waiting for me. And no matter the cost, I had to face it head on. As I pieced together the fragmented stories locked away in that journal, an uneasy realization dawned on me. The danger wasn't just the secret itself, but those determined to keep it hidden. I felt eyes watching, shadows lurking just beyond the glow of my small lamp. Every step I took toward unveiling the truth seemed to stir unrest. Unexplained noises in the night, a sudden silence in rooms once filled with laughter, and a growing weight on my chest that made each breath harder to take. I wasn't alone in this anymore. Someone or something was fighting back. I remember the bitter taste of fear lodged deep in my throat as I realized the secret's keepers were closer than I ever imagined. How many lies had been whispered in dark corners? How many smiles were masks for deeper betrayals? Through whispered phone calls and unanswered questions, I sensed the gathering storm. Whoever these people were, they believed silence was worth any price, even if it meant tearing families apart. But I wasn't ready to give in, far from it. The fire that flickered when I found that note transformed into a blaze, a resolve to face my fears head on and strip away the layers of deceit that had clouded my life for too long. And so, with cautious steps and guarded heart, I moved forward into the unknown with no idea what awaited, but certain of one thing: the truth would no longer be buried. It started with a soft tapping on my window late one night, almost too light to notice. But when I looked outside, the street was empty, bathed only in the flicker of a lone street lamp. The feeling of being watched didn't leave me after that. Messages arrived, hidden in plain sight. A folded scrap of paper slipped under my door, a phone call hanging up before I could answer. Each one felt like a warning. Stop digging or you'll regret it. Fear wasn't just in my mind, it was real, crawling under my skin. But alongside it grew something stronger, an unshakable determination. The people behind the warnings thought silence would break me, but they had underestimated the power of a truth seeker. As days turned into weeks, the shadows around me grew longer, but so did my courage. I knew the answers were close, hiding right beneath the surface of our carefully constructed lives. And I was ready to pull every thread, unravel every lie, until the whole story lay bare. Every piece of the puzzle I uncovered seemed to crack the carefully built facade around me. Faces I once trusted now blurred behind veils of deception. Whispers of forgotten promises floated through empty rooms, leaving me questioning everything I thought I knew. I confronted memories that had been tucked away like fragile glass, hidden to protect, but now threatening to shatter at the slightest touch. The truth was always there, buried under years of silence and half-truths, waiting for someone brave enough to find it. There were moments when doubt tried to infiltrate my resolve. Was it worth risking everything? Family, safety, peace, for a story long buried? But the more I uncovered, the more I realized that silence, no matter how comfortable, was a prison. I clung to the hope that beyond the lies lay freedom. Freedom to heal, to forgive, to rebuild a life not controlled by fear. The road ahead was uncertain, but I knew I had to walk it, step by painful step, until the truth finally breathed free. As the layers peeled back, I could feel the weight of every lie pressing down on my shoulders. Each secret held its own burden: whispers of betrayal, sacrifices made in silence, promises broken and kept in darkness. It wasn't just a story of one life. It was a tapestry, woven from countless sorrows and hidden hopes. I began to see the faces behind the secrets, the quiet ones, the broken ones, the ones who had loved fiercely but were forced to hide the truth to protect those they cared most about. Their pain mingled with mine, a haunting echo that refused to fade. There were nights I wondered if the truth was a blessing or a curse. Would unveiling these hidden wounds heal the scars or deepen them? But every time doubt crept in, my heart whispered that living in darkness was no longer an option. I knew the journey to the light was paved with challenges, but also with the possibility of peace,
a peace earned through courage, honesty, and unbreakable love. The road ahead remained uncertain, but for the first time, I was ready to walk it, no matter where it led. Just when I thought the walls were closing in and the shadows chasing me were endless, a strange calm washed over me. It was as if the storm was gathering strength, not to break me, but to prepare me for the battle I had to face. The silence that filled the house was deafening. No tapping on the windows, no mysterious calls, just the steady thump of my heart and the soft rustle of the notes I had uncovered. I used this fragile peace to gather my strength, to plan my next move carefully. Memories, once clouded by fear, became sharp weapons. Faces, names, moments I had tried to forget, now aligned in my mind like pieces of a map. The truth was no longer a distant whisper. It was a roar demanding to be heard. But this calm was deceptive. I knew the real reckoning was still to come, the moment when the secrets I'd uncovered would finally confront me head on. And when that moment arrived, I had to be ready. No matter the cost, no matter the pain, I swore I would fight to bring light to the darkness that had governed my life for too long. It came when I least expected it. A slip of a word, barely audible during a family gathering. A glance exchanged long before whispered sentences filled the room. The first crack in the wall of silence. I could feel every eye turn my way for a moment, suspicion mixed with fear. The past I had tried so hard to leave behind suddenly became impossible to ignore. The truth was no longer a secret shared only in hushed rooms and hidden notes. It was finding its voice. The aim thickened as questions unsaid grew louder. Who could I trust? How deep did the betrayal run? And more importantly, what did it mean for the people I loved? With every heartbeat, I felt the gravity of my choice to push forward into the unknown or retreat into the safety of ignorance. But the spark ignited by that small whisper could not be extinguished. With trembling resolve, I stepped closer to the truth, knowing that the journey ahead would demand everything I had and more. At that moment, I faced the crossroads I'd been dreading, the choice between silence and truth. The risks felt overwhelming, but so did the price of living a lie. The note, the whispered secrets, the growing unrest, all pointed to one undeniable truth. Some wounds must be opened to truly heal. My hands shook as I made the decision, knowing that revealing what I had uncovered could change not just my life, but everyone's around me. It wasn't just about unmasking others. It was about reclaiming my own power. Fear still lingered like a shadow, but it was no longer paralyzing. Instead, it sharpened the edges of my resolve. I wasn't willing to let fear write the story any longer. What followed was a journey filled with pain and unexpected strength, moments of doubt and bursts of clarity. I learned that truth, no matter how difficult, carries the promise of freedom. And sometimes that promise was worth fighting for, no matter the cost. The night I finally faced the truth, the world outside seemed to hold its breath. Every step toward that long-hidden secret felt heavy, like walking through a storm with no shelter in sight. I remember standing before the door that led to my past, a past filled with love and lies, hope and betrayal. My heart hammered louder than any fear, but I knew I had come too far to turn back. Inside, the truth waited, raw, painful, and unforgiving. It was a moment suspended in time, where the weight of years pressed down, demanding to be seen and reckoned with. But amidst the darkness, I found a flicker of light, the courage to forgive, the strength to heal, and the power to start anew. That night marked the end of silence and the beginning of my true story, a story of resilience, love, and the unbreakable bonds that hold us together, no matter the secrets we carry. After the storm of revelations passed, a fragile peace settled over my life. The wounds, though still raw, began to heal in ways I hadn't believed possible. The truth, once a heavy burden, became a pathway toward freedom. I learned that healing is not about forgetting the past, but embracing it with all its pain and beauty. It's about finding strength in scars and courage and vulnerability. And above all, it's about forgiveness, not just for others, but for myself. My family, once shattered by secrets, began to rebuild. Conversations that had been avoided for years slowly opened like windows letting in fresh air. And in that openness, love grew stronger, deeper, and more real. This journey taught me that no matter how dark the night, the dawn will always come, and with it, the promise of new beginnings. With the truth finally out in the open, life began to shift in unexpected ways. The weight of secrecy lifted, replaced by a quiet hope that felt both fragile and fierce. I found solace in the smallest moments: a shared smile, a gentle word, a hand held tightly in mine. Each day was a step forward, a chance to write a new story from the ashes of the old. The journey was far from over. Healing would take time, and there would be days when the past weighed heavily again. But I had learned that love, honesty, and courage were stronger than any shadow. As I look back on the road I've traveled, I see not just pain, but resilience, not just loss, but also an unbreakable spirit that refused to be silenced. This is my story, the story of a woman who found strength in truth and hope in the darkest of places. The end of this journey isn't the end of my story. It's the beginning of something new, a chance to live openly with no more shadows lurking in the corners of my life. I've learned that secrets may bind us, but truth sets us free. That strength isn't the absence of fear, but the courage to face it. And that love, when honest and fierce, can heal